Story 1. Locked-in syndrome. I know it is rare, but the idea of being fully conscious and aware while completely paralyzed makes my skin crawl. You would basically be a prisoner in your own body with no way to communicate or move. Story 2. Dementia. I wouldn't want that for my loved ones. It's such a cruel, heartbreaking, and frustrating experience to watch someone you love struggle in that way. You feel powerless, and it's grief, long, painful, repetitive, relentless grief. I'm not saying it isn't hard when the disease is more physical in nature, but at least then there is the ability to give each other mental and emotional support and comfort when needed. Dementia is especially cruel because there is no winning, and it is completely out of your control and theirs. Story 3. Cancer. Both my mother and grandmother passed away from it, and multiple other family members and friends have also been affected. Story 4. Any kind of severe mental or cognitive illness where you do not have the capacity to process or understand things. If I am unwell, I want to realize it so I can adjust how I am living. It would be horrible to have a mind-altering condition or something like locked-in syndrome. Story 5. Alzheimer's disease or any type of dementia. My mother and grandmother both dealt with it. My mother still is. There is no history on my father's side, so I estimate a 50-50 chance that I have the genetic predisposition for it. Story 6. Dementia. I watched it take down my mother over a period of 5 years. It was heartbreaking to watch her slowly slip into nothingness. Story 7. Dementia or Alzheimer's disease robs you of your memories to the point where you do not recognize anyone. My grandmother was slowly declining with dementia when she hit her head, which accelerated the memory loss. She said that people who had been dead for decades were in her house. Her balance was deteriorating, so we had to place her in a memory care facility until she passed away at the age of 93. Story 8. Might seem silly, but if those United States ticks migrate to Europe, I won't ever go outside. I love meat with all my heart. Please don't make me allergic. As of now, I am afraid for real. I don't need to be. It's never lupus. Story 9. My first thought is rabies. My second is something that causes those kinds of symptoms but does not kill me. I think more than dying, I am afraid of living. Story 10. Two diseases are the worst. Locked-in syndrome and dementia. One traps you in a mind without a body, the other eventually traps you in a body without a mind. I would much prefer both to cease simultaneously. Story 11. Rabies is not like an active fear, but it is by far the one I am most afraid of. There is a 99% fatality risk, and you die absolutely terrified and sick out of your mind. Story 12. None. I have a pretty nasty one with Meniere's disease. I suppose I would hate another non-fatal chronic illness. Story 13. I don't think it is a disease, but multiple system atrophy and locked-in syndrome are what scare me the most. Just not having control of my body anymore is terrifying. Story 14. Alzheimer's or any disease that causes loss of memory or self-awareness. I want to remain present in my mind at least if I am suffering from a disease, which might not make sense to many people. But if my mind is still sound and strong, I can have that comfort. Or any condition or disease that traps me in my body. So basically, being trapped either by losing my mind or being trapped in my body. I would endure any amount of pain and suffering over those two things. Story 15. Anything from a mosquito, malaria, West Nile virus, dengue fever, Zika virus, and yellow fever. I hate those little creatures. Story 16. Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Watching everyone you love start to pity and fear you without really understanding why except in those occasional lucid moments where you remember enough. I have had literal nightmares about that, here and there over the years. The kind of nightmares where you wake up sweaty and sick to your stomach and don't feel right for about a week. Other neurodegenerative diseases like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis are right up there too. Getting old is bad enough, but gradually losing all your motor function while remaining completely aware would be pretty heinous. Rabies would also be a really horrible way to go, since it attacks your nervous system. I would rather die of tuberculosis, Ebola virus disease, or the bubonic plague than have my entire nervous system slowly die off or turn against me like that. Story 17. If we are talking about infectious diseases, prion are ultra-rare but also ultra-deadly. With most other diseases, you can be saved or at least manage them. With a prion, you simply wither and die in every scenario. No help, no escape, no way out. I have severe health anxiety, and for a while I refused to eat red meat because of my fear of mad cow disease. Story 18, Rabies. I probably do not fear anything as much as the fact that I could become infected with rabies and immediately say goodbye to life. Story 19, Parkinson's disease, because my dad has it. He was diagnosed at 42 and has received deep brain stimulation, which has helped, but he is still unable to work and struggles with controlling his muscles when lifting or pushing weight. Story 20. I have seen cancer at its worst. I fear going through that experience and sincerely hope that a cure will be available soon. Story 21. Honestly, scurvy. No thanks. I'll probably get liver cirrhosis with the way I used to drink. And I am allegedly at risk of getting cancer. But hey, at least my skin and body are not splitting apart at the seams. Story 22. Anything autoimmune or where your immune system attacks you. My immune system is amazing. I'm in my 40s and basically either never get illnesses that are going around, or when I do get them, they are clearly the same illness as everyone else, but vastly reduced in their severity. Everyone else is off sick for 2 weeks throwing up. I have a single throw up, maybe, and feel bad for an afternoon. Same condition, totally different response. I haven't been to a doctor for anything more than vaccinations and administrative stuff in nearly 20 years. I don't get stomach bugs, headaches, infections, etc. COVID-19 passed me by entirely. I remember I once had a slight headache in October 2019, which was extremely unusual for me, and looking at it later, I believe that might have been COVID-19. My last pack of 16 paracetamol tablets lasted more than 7 years. I just never need it, and if I did, it is for a tiny minor inconvenient headache where other people are laid up for weeks with splitting headaches when they have the same thing. I once had a tooth abscess and was in actual pain, extraordinarily rare for me, with swollen glands when it was infecting my mouth. I took a single small expired tablet of low-strength amoxicillin on a foreign doctor's orders. They were not willing to prescribe anything out of the ordinary or strong because they didn't have any records. It literally cured me within an hour, straight back to normal, and I have never had a problem since. My immune system does just fine normally, and all it needed was a tiny bit of help that time, and it totally defeated that abscess and infection. But if my immune system ever turns on me, I would be in trouble. Or if I need an organ transplant and they have to suppress my immune system, I would worry if it would actually come back as strong. Fortunately, I have not needed to test that theory. Story 23. Meningitis almost killed me when I was about 15. Awful migraines, constant nausea, light sensitivity, and smell sensitivity. It was terrible. Story 24. Cancer is often not curable. Even if you receive chemotherapy, there is no guarantee you will survive if it spreads to other organs. It is a serious disease. Story 25. I have stage 4 cancer and it is serious. I am also afraid of diseases that cause paralysis, such as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and other similar conditions. Multiple sclerosis is also quite frightening. Lung diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease are concerning. My mother almost had to be intubated while awake once. Breathing problems are terrifying. Story 26. Stomach cancer is rarely detected early in the United States. It is often considered a fatal diagnosis. I watched my father die from it, so I am likely to develop it as well. Story 27. Parkinson's disease slowly robs control of the body over 15 to 20 years. My mother passed away from it almost 3 months ago after fighting it for over 20 years. She went from being able to drive, cook, clean, dress herself, bathe herself, and walk, the very things we take for granted, to becoming wheelchair-bound and then bedridden in a nursing home. She was not given physical therapy and became atrophied. In her last months, she could barely speak, had to be fed, wore adult diapers, and needed to have her position adjusted in bed. During the final week of her life, she was on oxygen and could no longer talk. Losing her at the age of 69 was the most painful and heartbreaking experience I have ever gone through. I know she is no longer suffering, but it still hurts deeply. I am starting therapy tomorrow to cope with my grief because since her passing, I have not been able to sleep properly. Parkinson's disease is devastating. Story 28. Cancer. Both sides of my relatives were diagnosed and both passed away. It is painful and sad. Story 29. Being diagnosed with schizophrenia means you may not know if the experiences you are having are real or imagined, which is frightening to consider. Story 30. Parkinson's disease and Parkinson's dementia. My mother has both. There is only about a 10 to 15% chance I will inherit it, but I am still very afraid of it. Story 31. Dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I watched my late mother become an entirely different person when dementia took over. She had been a chef, baker, master watercolor artist, and avid golfer. She was generous and funny too. It all vanished when dementia took hold, and she was angry, confused, and lost for the last 7 years of her life. The same thing happened to her father. Story 32. Pancreatic cancer. I had acute pancreatitis once and wanted to end my life from the pain after 4 days. If I got cancer, I would find a peaceful way to exit. Story 33. Cancer, dementia, meningitis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and any disease with terminal in its name. Story 34. Cluster headaches are so severe that some people become suicidal. I cannot fathom that level of physical pain. Story 35. Brain-eating amoeba. The death rate is slightly more survivable than prion diseases or rabies, 97% versus over 99%. However, with any of these diseases, you simply wait, gradually dying as your brain degenerates and your own immune system destroys it. What really sets brain-eating amoeba apart is that any lake, body of water, or swimming pool, if stagnant or not properly maintained, can be fatal if you accidentally inhale water the wrong way. Story 36. As someone who has major health anxiety and is afraid of everything health-related, I have to say the one I am most fearful of is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Story 37. My wife had cancer last year, which was very difficult. One of my good friends also died from cancer at 39 years old. I mention cancer because of its effects and the likelihood of getting it. A brain-eating amoeba may be scarier, but I am not really worried about contracting that. Story 38. Rabies or fatal familial insomnia. One prevents you from drinking, and the other prevents you from sleeping. Both are fatal after a sufficient amount of time. Story 39. As half of my family dies at 50, I am afraid of the same. My children will be 18, 17, and 13 by then, which is not a good age to lose a parent. Not that there is a good age, but I hope they finish school before I pass away. Story 40. There are many horrifying sounding but ultimately very rare diseases. I am going to focus on the horrifying sounding disease that is the #1 killer in my family. Cancer. Story 41. If I had a nickel for every professor I have known who turned down a very high-paying job in a prison laboratory because of strong objection, I would have 2 nickels. Which is not a lot, but I have also only met 2 professors who were offered jobs like that. Story 42. Anything that could leave me bedridden or unable to take care of myself, while also preventing me from taking the trip to Switzerland I have planned for the potential onset of Alzheimer's and similar conditions. Story 43. The thing I'm most afraid of is dementia or anything that impairs your mind. Watching your memories dissolve or not knowing your loved ones scares me deeply. I've seen Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, Alzheimer's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and similar neurological conditions mentioned here. That combination of being trapped in your head while your body fails is horrifying. Cancer scares many people, but some types have decent survival rates. However, the idea of losing who you are or not recognizing your own life feels much worse to me. Story 44. Alzheimer's scares me the most. Losing my memories and sense of self would be incredibly hard, both for me and the people I love. Story 45. I cannot say just one because I am terrified of many, but motor neuron disease is a serious condition. I have diabetes, which also puts me at risk of vascular dementia. Story 46. Cancer affected 3 of my 4 grandparents and they died from it, so I am scared about that. Also, sometimes it feels like I am locked into my body, where I just lose control of it. Story 47. Brain cancer. My dad has astrocytoma and has had 1/4 of his brain removed. He is now a shell of the man he once was. I do not think I could live knowing what could happen. Story 48. Alzheimer's disease. The thought of slowly forgetting everyone and everything you love is absolutely terrifying. Story 49. Parkinson's disease affected my grandmother, and watching her slowly deteriorate and begin choking constantly was terrifying. Cancer runs in my family, so it almost feels inevitable that I will develop it. Story 50. Alzheimer's and memory loss. I worked long enough in elder care to see a lucid resident walk in through the doors, making informed decisions about their future, only to decline over time and forget their name, their children, and who they were. My grandfather is 90 and starting to respond in a child's voice. He will not eat or shower. It absolutely breaks my heart. Story 51. Ankylosing spondylitis. Oh wait. But for real, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, any form of cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and dementia would all be brutal. Story 52. For me, it is either amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or frontotemporal dementia. My grandmother had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and my mother had frontotemporal dementia. Being the next of kin to both, seeing what they went through was very difficult. I hope I will be lucky enough to keep my wit and physical functionality for as long as possible. Story 53. Cancer. I've watched my grandmother suffer and slip away so fast and in so much pain I couldn't believe it. Story 54. Motor neuron disease. Being in the rugby world and having watched multiple professional players be diagnosed and watching them deteriorate is terrifying. With new research emerging about head injuries and their relation to motor neuron disease, it makes me nervous. Story 55. Dementia. I have a lot of brain damage, so I am at a higher risk of developing it. Honestly, it scares me because I remember what it was like to be in a coma. I imagine dementia is much worse, slowly losing your mind and not being able to do anything about it. I lost my mind once, but I was at least able to recover the majority of it, all the parts that let me function. So the thought of slowly losing it and not being able to get it back is terrifying. Story 56. I think people are misunderstanding the threat posed by cancer. It is only cured in about 50% of cases, and it is very common. It is the number one fear. Alzheimer's disease is a close second. Side note, please do not describe dementia or Alzheimer's disease patients as hollow, mindless shells, or zombies. I realize this comes from fear, and that fear is understandable. However, unless you live with someone who has these diseases or spend a lot of time with them, you do not know what it is like. Do not dehumanize people just because it is scary. Visiting a family member's memory care twice a year does not count. Story 57. To me personally, a gastrointestinal cancer. My system is completely damaged as it is, and I am trying to repair my gut. Overall, I would have to say dementia. If I cannot take care of myself, use a remote to change the television, or remember who I am, please end my suffering. Story 58. COVID-19. Health agencies worldwide have negligently misinformed people about the risks of repeated COVID-19 infections. COVID-19 is not a respiratory illness. Although that is its main pathway into our bodies, it is primarily a vascular disease, which is why its impact can be so varied. COVID-19 causes endothelial dysfunction, which means it damages your body's blood vessels and can potentially impact every part of your body. Another concerning aspect of COVID-19 that has been severely underreported by mainstream media is its impact on our brains and immune system. The brain fog and loss of smell or taste commonly reported as symptoms by people experiencing post-viral issues, usually referred to as long COVID, are actually signs of brain damage. COVID-19 literally kills brain cells and can disrupt essential functions in your body. Additionally, COVID-19 can weaken your immune system. It can kill your body's T cells, which are immune cells that remember past illnesses and produce antibodies to fight them. This means you can be more susceptible to other illnesses after a COVID-19 infection. The reason this information has been heavily suppressed is that governments worldwide do not want to commit to the actions required to keep us safe from repeated COVID-19 infections. This includes ensuring everyone has access to high-quality respirators and ensuring everyone can breathe clean air, similar to how we monitor and regulate water quality and pollution. All of this information is based on a large and growing body of peer-reviewed scientific research. I am happy to provide links to credible studies if anyone wishes. If you are about to dismiss this as conspiracy theory, ask yourself, would the capitalist system that has suppressed real action on the climate crisis and mass extinction for decades sacrifice profits and accept huge economic contractions to protect people's health? Wealth and power are increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few privileged billionaires who have the best technology to protect themselves and their families. Simple steps like wearing a mask in crowded indoor spaces and investing in an air purifier can help reduce how often you get COVID-19. Story 59. Alzheimer's disease. I am very determined to overdose on opiates after diagnosis and before I get bad enough, if I ever get there. Cancer is straightforward with pain, possible recovery, and eventual loss, but it is not as psychologically taxing as caregiving for a loved one who is lost to Alzheimer's disease. I hate to even think about it. Story 60. Anything where I know I am a burden, I will take constant, unending pain and embarrassment before I ask for help. I have a best friend. I love this guy. We have been through a lot. He is basically family. I had a serious problem with my eyes while we were camping. I was in excruciating pain and blind for hours, but I did not want to wake him up for help. After he woke up, he was very confused about why I did that. It is a serious mental problem I have. Story 61. Because I am an emergency room fan. Bipolar disorder type 1. Second place is Alzheimer's disease. I have a family history with it, so I will probably get it. Story 62. Alzheimer's disease or schizophrenia. Where comfortable people become sinister threats, and there is no one to help you. Story 63. Sexually transmitted diseases. Especially since I am not sexually active. Waking up with unexpected pustules would not be a pleasant experience. Story 64. Cancer can happen anywhere, at any time, with no warning, and ruin my life in an instant. My hair is naturally wavy. I do not care about looks that much, but I could not stand to lose my hair. Then again, that is the least of my concerns if I get cancer. Dementia does not happen to younger people, which means if you get it, you have most likely already lived your life. Rabies is very rare, and there is a vaccine to prevent it. Prion diseases are also very rare. But cancer? How are you supposed to help prevent it or predict it? It can come out of nowhere and take everything from you. Story 65. Locked-in syndrome or becoming blind. I feel that being able to communicate, as well as seeing my surroundings, are the two biggest blessings and are the core of my life's quality. Story 66. Cancer. I would rather get Alzheimer's at least to forget my awful life, and that condition would not hurt anyone, as I do not have anyone either way. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.